Shirur. I hope all of you enjoyed the same. This afternoon, we have Dr. R. Subbaiah sir, who will just in a while discuss with you on the evaluation of technical writing. Before I invite him, I would just like to introduce our esteemed guest speaker to you. Dr. R. Subbaiah is currently working as Principal and Dean, College of Agriculture, Engineering and Technology at Anand Agricultural University, Godhra in Gujarat. He obtained his PhD in irrigation water from IIT Kharagpur and had worked as a secretary for ISAE Gujarat chapter for 4 years from 2003 to 2007. He's also working as president for Indian Society of Agricultural Engineers Gujarat chapter for 2 years in between 2015 and 2017. Besides this, he has also acted as member for evaluating Best Teacher Awards of the university in 13, 14, 15, and also had acted as vice president for Indian Society of Agricultural Engineers at AAU chapter. He also worked as chairman for deciding the course for drip irrigation at GGRC Vadodara for local artisans in 2016. Dr. Subbaiah has been awarded with 16 meritorious awards, including Best Paper and Associate Editor Awards. His research contributions include 4 completed projects and 8 ongoing research projects at present. He has published 81 papers in international and national journals, 9 books, and 5 review articles, has organized 2 national conferences, 2 winter schools, and 2 training courses so far. Besides this, he has prepared a 21 training manual for farmers and 34 training manuals for research at JAU and AAU, and also 11 pamphlets. It is our honor and pleasure to have Dr. R. Subbaiah with us today. With this, sir, I request you to kindly proceed with your presentation. Dear audience, as I said, he would be discussing the evaluation aspect of technical writing with all of us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. So good afternoon to everybody else. So today we'll be working on the evaluation of the technical writing. So I'll be presenting that one. The very first thing is the whole presentation is focusing on what are the points to be focused in the technical report, research evaluation preliminaries, evaluation methodology and case studies, how it is correlated to the evaluation methodology, the evaluation report, how to prepare, what are the tips and what are the points to ponder on in the evaluation report. And after all this, completing this that means research, you wanted to publish your research and you wanted to disseminate information among the farmers domain. And in that one, how your research paper will be evaluated and how your authorship is, your impact of authorship is known and impact of the journal is known, and the altimetrics, which is a new subject which is coming, an emerging field, that also will know, and what are the know-how points. So far, these are the riveting concerns which we are going to stick in this presentation. Now, you have already studied about the technical writing proposals, how to prepare a good proposal, and how to write a good report. When it comes, when a report is there, when certain question is there in your hand, and then out of that question, you wanted to do some research, and based on that research, you will aim that you will get some new knowledge. So research is emanating from the questions in the hand, and the new knowledge is coming from your research. So this is the cardinality of the research. Now, before evaluating, as an evaluator, what are the points that we generally see in a technical writing? The main functional purpose of a technical writing is you are communicating your information and you wanted to disseminate your scientific knowledge among the scientists who are concerned with you and who are working in your field, and even in other fields also you wanted to share it with them. Now, as an examiner or as an evaluator, what he will evaluate, taking that technical report, you have to first see certain good qualities, that they are called intrinsic qualities as well as extrinsic qualities. These both should be possessed in your technical report. Now, what are the intrinsic qualities? The very first thing is a very specific objective needs to be defined. What are your objectives based on your research, how you have conceptualized, and what's your objective, what you wanted to do, that you have to highlight it. And that report should be not relating to any individuals. It should be always impersonal. And you have to confine yourself.
Subbiah, sir.
Sir.
Sir, your screen is not visible to participants. Sir, please share your screen.
Not visible? No?
Yeah, okay, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Okay. So the intrinsic qualities which one has to see is...
So please do slideshow so it's more visible.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, now okay, sir. Thank you.
It should be confined to what you are doing it. You have to do honestly. The report, that means whatever the work you are doing, and that report should be honest. And it should not be biased based on the gender. So these are the intrinsic qualities which you have to stick to in your report. Now, what are the extrinsic qualities? So 4 main things are focused here. It should be very clear, concise, focused, and consequential. Now, what is clear? That means it should have 4 qualities. As a coherent, that means good logical connections between your ideas should be there. And your ideas should be presented in a logical order, which is termed as coordinated. And it should be consistent. That means your idea should be presented in a uniform manner. And it should be very much correct. That means you have to check the spelling, punctuation, as well as grammar. What is next is concise. Concise means it should be very short, specific, and necessary. So these are the 3 extrinsic qualities which are needed. And then second thing is focused. That means what's your problem, what you have defined, and how you are solving that problem. And after solution, what conclusions you are drawing in response to your objectives. These 3 are very important. The next is consequential. That means the content should be complete and reliable. So these are some of the important points one has to do it. So these are intrinsic, extrinsic qualities of a report, which we had seen it. And second thing is we have seen how the research is. Now, from this part, I am saying how the evaluation is being done. Evaluation means, let us see what do you mean by evaluation? What do you mean by evaluation? That means you are assessing certain topics or subjects conducted for certain purpose. This is one of the definition. And another definition is to investigate the quality of the research. That a person who is investigating the quality of a research is always called as evaluation. And the more versatile definition is, it's a process of collection, synthesizing the evidence, and that can make after synthesizing what you are going, that can make conclusions about the state of affairs, value, merit, worth, significance, or quality of a program or a product. So you are making conclusions based on using certain methodology and certain measurements of variety of aspects. So it is in all, it's a 3-box phenomena. On one side, collection and synthesis, and in another output box, you have completely and significance in the value, merit, worth, significance is there. And in between these two, certain methodology and certain measurements to validate your concept is there. So in all, you can say certain definition is there. You are adopting certain methodology and then making a case study of it. And all these 3 combined together will be evaluated as a research. Now, what is the necessary? Why is it necessary to evaluate any research? Now, you just see an example. A swing project is given. A project sponsor is showing something in the first slide. That is, he has conceptualized, as proposed in the project, a swing project. Now, this proposal, he has specified in the project like this. And the design engineer senior analyst designed like this. and a programmer proposed like this, and in field it is installed like this, but a user wanted like this. That means you have a completely varied concepts. What is needed, user wanted, what the evaluator is doing, and how the project is being implemented. So if all these deviations are occurring, there is a need that we should of that one. If you see, that means the effectiveness of a new implement program is always determined. And how you will find it out? The determining of effectiveness is by gathering the information of the program, and then slowly you will improve it based on your research. Now, evaluation. Evaluation may be anything, maybe research grants that are being given to you for conducting research, the research manuscripts which you are publishing in some scientific journals. You are working on a specific research topics. Your research groups are there. Your constellations are there. And the research done by some institute is to be evaluated. And some national systems for producing science and innovation. Now, if you see recently, the COVID is going on. Everybody is saying that we have evolved with an antidote and some vaccine is being evolved. Whether it is really true or not, it has to be endorsed by the World Health Organization. Unless it is endorsed by something, he cannot put it in public domain. So that evaluation has certain meaning, that the vaccine is intended for what purpose, whether it's really solved the purpose, whether it is really stick to its guidelines, whether it is thoroughly checked. So before implementation, if some agency is appointed or if some institute is appointed to evaluate all these things, and then only it can be implemented. Now, research evaluation. Research evaluation means evaluating research is a long history. Since the inception of a human being, he started doing research for his survival, for his getting on in the universe. So if you wanted to do it, we are doing some research and we will check it whether it's working or not. And if it's not working, again, you are going to modify it. So it has a long history. And if you say, is there any universal definition that is existing that can use across all domains for scientific evaluation, it's very difficult to say. Every field has its own scientific information is there, scientific procedure is there, and scientific evaluation differs with each subject. So it is very difficult to say that a universal definition or universal practice is existing for all scientific evaluations. It's difficult. Now, even research quality in a scientific community is also difficult to say. Some universities, they are saying, even if you are doing your PhD, if your guide asks that whether your quality is good, so what we say, you publish in some journal, a good reputed journal with some good impact factor. And if it's getting published, then IIT also says that it is published in a reputed journal and your quality of your thesis is good at doctorate level. So that means universities or IITs or anybody, they are focusing on the number and quality of publications in scientific journals. Now, is it necessary? Then somebody will say, if my focus is some domain group, some particular group is there, and if that group is having certain publication, why I should not publish in that? That's also an authentic authority. And I can say my purpose is solved because I developed the research for that particular stakeholders, and now I am publishing that one with them, in their reputed journals. So it's good. That's why some institutions, they are focusing on other kinds of publications too. Now, some countries, they are forming national committees or national commissions to evaluate, measure the research quality using some bibliometric indexes. That has, these bibliometric indexes starts from 1985. They evolved in 1997. And it is not like that. Some bibliometric index is evaluated and your evaluation of research is done. and some index value is given, you are not confining to that. It's including much more than the bibliometric analysis. Now, let us see how research evaluation is being done across the globe. In Italy, if you see it, they have a national reference guidelines for research evaluation. And what it highlights, that means the socio-economic impact of your research will be evaluated. The resource use efficiency will be taken as a criteria for evaluating the research that is done in Italy. And this was developed in 2006. Now, what about US? US evaluates the research. They have a 5 agenda that they have highlighted for evaluating the research. What is that important criteria? That means the significance of the project or the research should be there. A sound approach and a methodology should be adopted. Some innovation should be there. And they will find out who are the investigators and what is their credibility. That also they will investigate. And then at last, after developing all these things, does the research have some negative impact or a positive impact on the environment? The environmental considerations, that also will be taken into account. So these are the 5 important points one evaluates. Now, if you see how you are some scholars are also there, some teachers are also there. How we will evaluate, what should be the criteria that should be used if it's a PhD thesis? IIT says 3 criteria. What is it? 1, it should be altogether a new innovation. 1, okay, new innovation should be there. Second thing, if it's not a new innovation, some research is there, some theoretical findings are there, they have not applied really to the field. You are the first man that you apply those research into your field and evolve with some limitations. That is another criteria. And the third one is, that means somebody has done some work. And in that work, some lacuna is existing. And you are evaluating that lacuna and you are bringing some improvements into it. And those improvements will be taken care. Then you have to say, this is the existing research, these are the lacuna, and these lacuna are being alleviated in the research which I have done. Out of these 3 criteria, if any one is satisfied, IIT says that it is cleared for a PhD work. Now, in Sweden, how it is done? That means the quality of research is maintained. That much, how much attention is attracted by your scientific people? What is the attention that you have received from the scientific personnel for your research? If it's very high, that means you have a very good research. Then comes the technological and socio-economic significance. That means whether it's cost effective, whether it's highly impact in the society, or whether certain economic considerations, it's cost effective is also there, a sound technological approach is there, and through publications also you have very good impact is there, and that journal is also good if impact research results are also good. In these 3 criteria, that means the attention that is received by your project, the technological considerations, the socio-economic significance, and the impact of research results in the society are taken as a criteria for evaluating the quality of research, particularly in the Sweden. Now, suppose in our university, if we are saying certain work is to be evaluated, some people say we should go internally. We have enough, right? Good people are there. We can go internally. And some people say, no, sir, some other countries, they have very good expertise, particularly the external evaluation should be done. So a debate is always existing within the universities, within the institutes, and across the globe, that evaluation, whether it is to be done internally or externally. Now, it has both its own merits and demerits for both the systems. Now, internal, it's very quick. The advantages include very quick. No cost is because your own university professors are evaluating your research and they have the know-how of your problem. They have seen your way of working. they have seen your experiment, you can go and continuously visit it. And when it is, you are get through, that means when you are satisfied, you can go for, suggest the university for immediate implementation. So delay will not be there. But disadvantages. That means if a competence should be there, and if that competition should be always in a positive side. Suppose if I am criticizing somebody else, he may think bad. So keeping that one view, that means my criticism may affect that scientist, and some university will give him certain letter. Based on that, I don't go. Then I'll say, okay, you go through it, and then I am clearing it. He don't really go through critically and offer his comments very thoroughly. And that means lack of independence is there. Some dependence among the scientists will always occur within the system. And even the future, how it is to be done, what are the improvements, it is also difficult because they don't explain it. Then they will ask you, if that is existing, then why you have not done? Why you have not adopted it? So such questions will arise. So keeping that in view, people will never go to say very firmly that these are the improvements that are needed. But if it's a question of external, he is not related to you. He is altogether an independent man and with a profound methodological competencies there. That means if a thesis is being sent to IISc Bangalore or some IIT, those professors, they are doyens of their subjects. They will thoroughly evaluate it. They don't compromise with the standards. So unless if the thesis is attaining a particular standard, or if that research is attaining a standard, then they don't recommend it. And they will say certain reformations are needed in your work. And what are those reformations? They will highlight you. So when once if you say that my research is evaluated externally by a very good institutes like University of Science Bangalore, or some University of California, or some US universities, or some any other universities which is really working in forefront in that subject, then you have a high degree of credibility for your report, even for your research. That means it has a very lot of advantages out there, but that person may not be knowing your local conditions, the way you have worked, and the constraints which you are facing for your local way. He will not be knowing. So then whatever comments are being offered, or whatever suggestions are being given to you, then you start reacting to it, and your defense for your research, you will discuss with him that this is not possible, this cannot be done, this is not possible for us with the lack of information, lack of engaged sites. So likewise, whatever your defense reactions are there, you will put it without implementing it sometimes. And implementation is also a problem that is seen. So it is a more or less some internal evaluation, some monitoring, and external evaluation, both as a, you can say it should be both be clubbed and it should be taken in a view. Now, why we are doing it? What is the purpose Cronbach has given? He has given 3 identifications. One, the course improvement. The second is decision about individuals. And the third one is administrative regulation. What's course improvement? That means whatever methodology, the materials which you have used for conducting your research to attain your objectives is perfectly correct. That's what is the course of improvement. That's a improvement processing stage. And wherever change is needed, you are suggesting that here the changes are needed. Where the change is needed, that also will be given. But what is administrative regulation? Judging how good the system is. That means when once if it is done, then they can have for a evaluation, and they can say that the system is good, and how the people are working and what is their capability can also be explored. Now, the second point is remaining decision about individuals. Decision about individual means what is the need of the people that you have to first identify for planning a project. Without knowing the needs of the people, it will be very difficult to conceptualize even and to identify the methodology. Then you have to judge the people based on their merit so that a clustering can be done in groups, and accordingly the considerations, the conclusions, the interpretations can be given in terms of groups. And second thing is you are acquainting the people the progresses as well as the deficiencies. Whatever they are doing, that these are the lacuna in your work. This is to be improved. We have already done some research, which we are taking in terms of FLDs in our university. FLD is nothing but acquainting people with the progresses as well as deficiencies. If you are doing some FLD of your research, that is developed research within a university, the concerned farmers will come and see your progress of the experiment, and they will be appeased with the way you are working, so that they will come across about their deficiency while doing it, and they will try to remove them from their work. Now, for evaluation, certain standards are needed. What is it? That means whenever you are evaluating, the scientific accuracy should always be there. Without scientific accuracy and without scientific background, it's very difficult to convince the scientists even. So the second is the professional standards are to be maintained. You have some professional standards. That means just for the sake of a report you are doing and for the sake of money we are doing, it should not be like that. Now, while evaluating, actually you should involve the stakeholders for which they have done. If you involve those stakeholders, then and then only you will realize that what problem they have given to the researcher and what output was given, and whether that output is really useful to them and can it be implemented. Then and then only you can say that the stakeholders are totally satisfied. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. And second thing, whether the report which you are evaluating, whether it has taken into care the varied interests of the stakeholders. For example, if some irrigation planning is given to a particular scientist, I say that you have to adopt so much of land, you have to give so much of fertilizer, so much of water to the crop. He will say, sir, for this, how much money is needed? I'll say, suppose 1 lakh is needed. Then if he says, sir, I don't have that much. I have only 50,000 rupees. Is it possible to give your planning based on 50,000? That means then the report should take care of that interest too. Then he will say, sir, my interest is, I wanted to take care. Your planning is suggesting certain crops, but that fellow is not interested due to lack of marketing. Then he will say, sir, I will go for this crop. Is it possible for me to take this crop? Then you should be in a position to incorporate those interests into your research and analyze the results and again say whether it is feasible or not. That sort of justification should also be given. And you have to do justice for the requirements of the clients, and the needs of the affected people should be tackled in a proper manner. Now, the evaluation is two types. One is formative and summative evaluation. That means characteristics we have already seen, intrinsic and extrinsic. Into that, we have seen the purpose and the strategy to attain your objectives. These two are important parameters, your characterizations. So what is formative evaluation and what is a summative evaluation? Formative evaluation means gathering the information while you are developing, while you are implementing the program. That means it's also called as process or progress evaluation. That means when you are doing certain things, you will gather the information from the people, and while implementation, whatever you are doing, that is come under formative evaluation. And formative evaluation, what it says, what is the process of implementation, what process you have decided, how it is relating to your objectives, then which are the important aspects in your program that are to be highlighted and why. And second thing, what are the constraints in implementations and what strategies you will adopt to overcome those constraints of implementation. So you have to answer these three important points in your formative evaluation. Then summative evaluation. Summative evaluation means, that means when once the program is over, you have developed it and you are implemented. And once if it's implemented, the effectiveness of implementation will be evaluated here in summative evaluation. That's why it's called outcome or impact evaluation. Now, what questions it addresses? One, what about how successful your program is there in achieving your goals? Your successfulness of the program is to be mentioned. Then how your program was effective for different group of participants, whether farmers, whether policymakers, whether planners, or at some other higher levels, how your program is effective in tackling the issues to various groups. Now, which program of is most effective in your case, that also it addresses. So, what are the aspects that are to be concised or addressed in a particular evaluation? That means one, the program area for which you are doing the research needs to be specified. The program aims. What are your aims of the program? For what? That means once you have conceptualized the program, that means idea. Those ideas are to be kept in reality to attain. You have conceptualized some objectives, and those objectives, what are them? That's what program your aims. Then to achieve their aims or objects, you have to go through certain methodology. What is that methodology you are aimed for? Whether it's appropriate to your aims to come to the conclusions. Then you have to see the stakeholders, who are the target groups for which you are suggesting this program. And you have to see the expertise of the people involved in the program, whether within the group or outside of the group, whether they have competencies there and whether their intellectual ability is how much. If I am doing certain program and if it is not known to anybody else, then what's the fun of it? Then other practical aspects. Other practical aspects is time, money. That means what is the amount of time that you need and what is available, what is given to you, and what is the time that is given to you for conducting this evaluation. Money needed and money available. You are suggesting something and they don't have that much money to spare towards your evaluation. That also you have to see it. And second thing is intellectual ability, research skills of the staff who are working in that project, that needs to be analyzed. Then availability and accessibility of the data. When you are evaluating certain research, whether the university, if you ask that university to make it available, the data, the information, whether they are sparing it or not, that has to be seen. So we have given a certain checklist that these are the aspects that you have to cover. That means then you will say, sir, should I follow this checklist in all cases? Then we are saying, no. This checklist is not meant to adopt mechanically to all problems. Not true. It needs to be tailored based on the individual circumstances. Decide the problem and accordingly use these criteria and tailor them to adopt your research evaluation. That's why we are saying no universal formula is existing which can be applied across all the disciplines and in all situations. It's very difficult. It is site specific, objective specific, stakeholder specific. It should be very specific to a particular problem. Universal problem can never be defined. Now, that means Hicks has pointed it out. Evaluation is always led by a data rather than judgment. That means you have to have a substantial evidences for proving about your findings and for saying that what you have done is correct. Your evaluation procedure is correct. It should be supplemented with certain scientific background also. Second thing, sir, I am giving my judgment is this one. They don't have a scientific background. That won't work because people will say that I got this information. You have to accept it. So that's why Hicks says it should be led by data rather than by judgment. Now, what are the key questions while you have to account for planning and evaluation? One, what you are evaluating, what's being evaluated. Second is, what is the form of evaluation that takes place? Now, what are the practical issues? Practical issues means time availability, money availability, staff positions, time scale needed. These are all practical considerations that are to be taken into account while planning and evaluation. Then, what are the questions that evaluation has to address? You have to first find it out from your that means person, client, and then based on him, you have to suggest the evaluation issues. Now, what use will be made of the findings? That means you are giving certain findings to your evaluate, that means your client, and then how you will address them. Then what type of data that are to be collected for that will help you in evaluating these questions. That means data collection, you have to do it, and techniques also you have to adopt to gather your data. And while collection, then the question comes, who will gather this data? Who will gather this information? And what ethical considerations need to be addressed? This also are to be taken account. Then how the evaluation will be reported to the client. So these are the, you can say, 10 commandments that you have to address while planning and evaluations. Now, let us see how to evaluate a methodology. That means what is the methodology? Let us take a particular case study and then how these parameters and how these methodology steps are correlated to your case study. Evaluation methodology mainly consists of 4 steps and each is having certain sub-steps. The one is you have to define the parameters of the evaluation, the first step. Second is design the methodology for evaluation. Third one, you have to set the standards and collect evidence for that. If you are putting the standards without evidence, it's not good. Then people will comment on us. Then fourth is report and making decisions. Now let us see. The first case is define the parameters of evaluation. What are the points that are to be addressed in this? That means first you have to determine need for the evaluation. That means if there is no need, no point of evaluation. If certain need is there, then determine what is that need. Then only you can evaluate. Then that means certain problem is there in your hand that can only cultivate the idea for designing certain process for developing certain research and to give some conclusions. That means certain problem is needed in your hand. Then you have to find out what is the utility of these results. Based on that only, your design evaluation process should be based on it. Then who is the end user? What should be reported to the end user? Who is the end user? That is to be designed here. And determine evaluators' needs to the report and to the client. That means, suppose if you wanted to evaluate it, you mention the client, these are the standards, these are the parameters that I need, you have to provide it, and then only I can process your information. And based on information, frame the guidelines for implementing the evaluation. Now, while evaluating, you have to see it. What are the variables of the system? That means variables and parameters. Parameters and the difference between these two is variables, they continuously vary within the system. Parameter is the characteristic quantity of the system, either may change or can be taken as a variable, both. For example, hydraulic conductivity, infiltration of a soil, they are called as characteristics of the soil. Now, these are certain variables he has defined. What are the independent variables? The dependent variables are to be screened. And what are the extraneous variables which are affecting the system and which you are not counting it? Extraneous variable means which they are undesirable variables, not considered in the experiment, that never came to your mind, but that influence your outcome of an experiment. That's called extraneous variables. Now, what is the methodology? Design methodology. You have to choose the criteria for evaluation, collect evidence for each criteria, then select the sample size, appropriate sample size, what statistics says, appropriate sample size is to be collected, and then should be analyzed, and a cost-effective plan to collect the evidences. That means the scientific method that we are saying, it is going in this manner. One, first define the problem, formulate, you have to hypothesis, then you have to select the research design, Then based on that, collect and analyze the data, then extrapolate the conclusions, and then give your ideas for further research. This is the way. And if the research findings are poor or certain results or conclusions are not correct, then you have to again go for the original process, and it will be repeated iteratively so far your desired objective is attained. Now, while taking methodology, or some person is developing some models, then that person generally is doing, that means he has making variables into constants. He has made some simplifications. What sort of simplifications he had to make? He has made that you have to analyze it. That means he is making variables into constants. Then he is eliminating the variables or combining variables which are not needed. Even then he is combining, assuming, even though it's a nonlinear system is there, he is assuming strongly the linearity. A stronger assumptions and restrictions are imposed in the research, and he is not restricting the boundaries of the system, and without which he is working vaguely. All these points are also to be needed to be taken into account if it is a mathematical modeling aspect. Now, whether methodology which he has taken, there is a methodology is there, whether your objective is single objective, multi-objective, or feasibility problem. Single objective, or what are the constraints that you are facing, and what landscape you want, what functional form your objective research is there, what are the variables, type of variables that you are wanting, and what is the, whether it is deterministic nature or probabilistic nature also that you have to say. So based on all these considerations, you have to work. If it's based on objective, maybe single objective, maybe multi-objective, maybe a feasibility problem, a compromise problem within the multi-objective system, and constraints. No constraints are there, but it's a constraint optimization. And if it's a convex optimization and multimodal optimization, convex, concave, and multimodal, functional form, linearity, non-linearity, geometric type, quadratic, whatever may be the case. So many appropriate methodologies are there. Based on your type of considerations and based on your type of variable, one has to select a particular methodology. Now, you have to set standards and collect the evidence. That means you inform the client about the scale of measurement that is needed, scale of evidences. Now, what is the scale of evidence? Scale of evidence means, suppose if you are doing measuring the rainfall in particular area, and if there is certain norms are there that one rain gauge can cater the needs of so much area. Otherwise, if you are putting a one rain gauge in a very big area, that's not going to serve the purpose. Then you have to say, sir, I need so much of money for installing these rain gauges to measure the quantity of the rainfall or to determine the quantity of certain variable. Then you have to develop decision-making process to attain the quality. You have to decide certain methodology and decisions are to be set. Then defined standards in decision-making process, you have to set accordingly. And after setting standards, evaluator collects the evidence and gives the findings in terms of a document to the evaluator. That means client. Then the report is to be prepared giving the decisions. That means the report will be determined, the information will be kept in a form of report and that will be submitted to the client. Then client collects that report, he will check the quality about the, and knowing, and he will see against the set standards. Then if it is finding true, very perfect, then accordingly he will implement the decisions based on the findings. And then evaluator documents the results, or he will ask the evaluator, either he will publish or he will ask the evaluator to publish the document appropriately, whichever it is considered true. Now, in an evaluation report, what you should write? You have completed the evaluation process. Now you have to submit the evaluation report to your client. That means you have to highlight that means evaluation report always gives the executive summary of the evaluation process, the results, the findings, the interpretations, the conclusions, and the recommendations that are emerging from your research or evaluation. So your evaluation process is defined. What results you have find it out, your findings and your interpretations, that will be highlighted in the report. Now, what is the importance? Is it necessary to publish a report? Yes. It's a document to the certain audience. They can go through it and they can implement wherever it is needed based on the site-specific considerations. And second thing, it will develop a transparency and awareness among the stakeholders. That means some research is existing and you will be knowing the transparency of it. Then the stakeholders will say that such certain part of research is being done and that you can disseminate and you can get profit out of it. So that will be useful for the society to uplift their profit even. And some, it can be disseminated to the research outcomes. That means based on this research, some future findings can be taken and future advancements can also be made for this research. And in that also, it will give you how the resources are to be used efficiently, how time management is to be done for a particular research will also be known. It will be highlighted. That is, now what is, we have seen the importance. Now what should be the tips for writing a particular report? That means your purpose of evaluation needs to be highlighted. Now, for that, details of the evaluation to be included. That means detailed procedures, methodology, whatever is there, you have to highlight it. Then the report is to be given to certain people. Know the audience to which you are giving the report. In that type of stakeholders, their intellectual ability, their anticipating questions, and their concerns they might ask. All these start to be taken into account because we have already suggested that while making the evaluation, you have to invariably incorporate the stakeholders into your process so that their questions and concerns will be satisfied. Now, they divide the report into different sections so that a better distribution of ideas and contents can be achieved. Your report should be written in a clear manner. That means the audience should know it. They should come across about the report and they will keep it in their view. And your idea should be presented in a logical and better manner. And you have to see that your evaluation report is free of errors and grammar mistakes. So, key components will be, that means these are some of the points that are to be tips. And what are the components? Some title is to be there, executive summary, table of contents, introductory remarks, highlighting purpose, target of evaluation needs to be done, scope is to be given, and resources and methodology. What are the materials, equipments, methods you have used in the evaluation? In your summary, you have to give your findings, conclusions, interpretations derived from the evaluation needs to be mentioned in the summary. And recommendations, and that means the conclusions of your evaluation findings needs to be given in recommendations. And the references which you have used for your methodology and for your findings, for supplementing your information needs to be quoted. Now let us take a case study. Here, a college wants a procedure to admit a student and to give some scholarship. So here client is the college, evaluator is they have given to some administrator, and evaluatee is student. Now, we have mentioned previously 4 steps. That is, these 4 steps are given to you. That means this design we have given to you. Those 4 steps are to be taken here. Here we have given in slide, define the parameters, design methods. Accordingly, now I'll explain each and every case with respect to these points. Now, the first point is define the parameters of the evaluation. That means the purpose. That means assessing the knowledge of the student is the purpose. What results you are giving to the client. That means you are denying admission based on the knowledge, or you are offering scholarship to the knowledge students. Scholarship decisions, it is depending upon the college administration committee and applicant's knowledge, that is he is getting through the evaluator. Now, what evaluator gives to the client, that means admission people, he will give subscores and overall score of the test he has conducted. Now, what guidelines he is following? Students' quality, applicants' financial stability, and a way to compare to students, a methodology to compare to students is being developed. Now, he is taking a admission test. Combined test is being taken by the evaluator to evaluate the students and to provide the scholarship. Now, what standards he has mentioned? He has putting some decisions into it. He is saying if the score is 36, he is a perfect student, and if it is 20, he is an average student, and your 20 plus or minus standard deviation, that means 16 on the lower side and 26 on the upper side. Students with weak skills will not be admitted. This is a decision he has taken. With very strong skills, he will be admission is given to, as well as scholarship is also provided. Students with average skill will be offered the admission, but students' acceptance based on other criteria will be decided. Standards used: if our ACT score is less than 16, no admission. If it's greater than 26, admitted. That means if it's greater than 28, admission is given and scholarship is provided. Other evaluation tools are used when it is in between 16 and 26. And evaluator collects the evidence from the evaluator. Evaluator collects the evidence as ACT test. And these results, scores, are given as a document to the admission committee. Then applicant scores are sent to the college, reports and decisions. Score decision on scholarship and admission is sent to the college. Now, this is a case, but in our case, we wanted to evaluate certain paper into it. We are publishing, we are doing certain research. That research is to be published in a research paper. So some paper is submitted to certain research journal, and that journal editorial board has asked some of the technical expert to evaluate that paper. Now, if it is coming to you, what are the points that you are going to consider in that technical paper? Now, before technically evaluating it, the first thing is you have to see it. Evaluation by a research paper means the evaluation is to be done by an expert who is pertaining to that field only. Otherwise, it's not good. It's not scientific ethics. So we have to get it, the evaluation is to be done from an expert who is really a doyen in that field. Then, if it is gone, find out the scientific quality of that paper. That is to be primarily be investigated. Then it is necessary whether a clear understanding of the latest updates of the knowledge is there with him or not. That is to be analyzed based on his research paper. Now, the next one is whether he has appropriate methodology is adopted by him to attain his results. Is his conclusion is satisfactory with respect to his objective? Now, we are saying a proper scientific methodology is to be needed. That means a problem definition, a formulation of testable hypothesis, a research design is to be taken, any statistical design based on your variable natures. Then data collection and methodology is to be done. From that means your strategic planning, tactical planning need to be taken into considerations. And when once, if the results are giving proper idea about what you are doing in the research design, accordingly, the data collection is done and the extrapolation of the conclusions can be given to the persons who are needing it. And the ideas are also be given for further research. Now, whether we are saying here, is his conclusion satisfactory? Next is whether the research that he has paper, that means research paper or research that he has done, has any scope. What is the scope of that research? Is it broad or narrow? That you have to analyze. Did the author take into account all important aspects of the problem? Just like I am saying, he is considering restraining the boundaries of the system, converting variables into parameters. Then he is putting stronger assumptions of linearity. That is all aspects, whether they are taken or not, that is to be analyzed. Then originality, that's which is very important. What is the originality of his contribution? What is his contribution in that paper? Then it is giving any new insights into the problem with the existing one, that also needs to be analyzed. And what kind of impact that is expected, that means whether that impact, whether it's short-term or long-term impacts from that paper needs to be analyzed. Now, the research, when once the paper is evaluated, then it will be published, research dissemination among the scientific domain. Then you can, generally for that, you have to have a high research quality, which will be shared in terms of a research paper with the world scientific community to disseminate your disseminate your research and send a clear focused message to your fraternity. And then after that, you will be writing a good paper out of it. Now, in a paper, the first thing is the title is to be evaluated. Whether title is too long or whether it is explaining the content of it, is it irrelevant? Whether the content and title is irrelevant, that needs to be corrected. Whether abstract is taking care of your objectives, methods, results, and conclusions. All it should highlight an abstract. That means a very good abstract should be there. And by reading that one, you should know what you have done in your paper. And does it summarize the most important aspects of the paper? These are to be considered. And the second thing is, have you given keywords to your paper? And whether these keywords are appropriate with your methodology, which you are taken care in your research paper. Whether your paper is clear and appropriate, that means some introduction is there, methods are there, results are there, discussion is there, conclusion is there, and your ideas for future research is highlighted, is given or not, that is to be there. Then and then only you can evaluate it. Does introduction clearly identify the problem which you are doing it? Does it clearly state aims of the paper? Does the author acknowledge the published research by others or not? That also be, it is his moral ethics that whoever is assisting him, he has to acknowledge their research. That means help. Does the author clearly explain the methodology and the reasons for using certain methodology needs to be defined? Whether the statistical analysis which he is adopting and the sampling is biased or unbiased, whether that means the samples which he has collected, whether it is sufficiently large to cater the needs of the objectives, statistical design is perfect, whether the replication is done properly, and what about the amounts of degree of freedom, whether it is satisfied or not, that also need to be analyzed. Then how good quality of the figures. If the figures are weak and they are not clearly visible, what you can infer out of those figures? And what is the scale, whether it is indicated according to scale, it is clearly indicated or not, that also needs to be analyzed. Particularly in GIS and remote sensing images, you have to show it. And the second thing is, see that duplication of tables, figures is always to be avoided. And it's always better to have figures instead of giving data in terms of tables. That means a well-organized structure of the numerical data, is it adopted or not, needs to be checked. Is there a database with original data linked to this paper or not? What is its value? Whether the database is there with them or not are showing. Is the conclusions are motivating, are giving certain inferences, for upliftment of the society, that is to be analyzed. Whether the language which he is using is vocabulary, what is the type of vocabulary, what is the way he is writing system, that's called orthography, and grammatical mistakes are there, and your typographical mistakes are there, that you have to identify it. Unnecessary repetition of the figures, data, tables should always be avoided, easy doing. Then whether the references which you are using is up to date, correctly formatted in according to the journal, and whether they are relevant, that means relevancy, up to date, and formatting. These three are very important, particularly for the references. Now, what is the availability and visibility of the paper? That means the person is doing a research in a solid water engineering journal and publishing the paper in a mechanical engineering journal. How the persons of solid water engineering will go through the mechanical engineering, and then they will knowing what type of research you have done. That means you have to select a journal which is appropriate to you for disseminating your information into your fraternity. Then some people will say you should take care equally that the publication in the local journals should always be, that means is to be there, and that local people also will be knowing, but simultaneously you should take the international publication also, so that you can get a good feedback and there is a provision to improve it. Then is journal covered in the major international bibliographic databases? Whether it is accessible to all people or not, that is to be done. And is journal published internationally or locally? That is also to be seen. And next is whether the paper published is in an open access journal with global availability or not, or it is a paid journal. That also needs to be seen. Then researchers generally select journals for publishing research results and disseminating scientific information. Generally, we select that. And we always see open access journal as publications are not being paid. Publications are not paid one. Otherwise, some paid subscription is there, then their visibility and use in scientific impact is comparatively less. That means open access journals, if they are there, their access of publication and their subscription and visibility and scientific impact is always more for open access journals than the paid subscription journals. Then second thing is, when once if you have done the paper, you have to keep that information in the repository of the institute. Whether that institute is having some repository, that means that's called OIA MHP, that means Open Archives Initiative Metadata Harvesting Protocol. Generally, we are not adopting. This is particularly there in US and England, where they are putting all these databases into the institution repository, and then they will be made available whenever it is asked. Does the author specify the copyrights for the results? That means that needs to be taken. But generally in India, we are avoiding it. But it's always advisable to take copyrights of the provisions which you are doing. Then whether even open access journals are also there, in that also, whenever you are taking certain things from somebody else, you should duly acknowledge them and you should duly specify that it has taken from certain paper. That is to be there. And plagiarism is always avoided. Duplication, plagiarism needs to be avoided. Otherwise, you will get a bad name out of that. And whether your paper received a digital objective identifier, DOI is given to any paper, your paper or not, that also needs to be seen. Then whatever these checklist which you have given for the paper, it is being evaluated by the Elsevier journals. And these journals, if you see it here, title page, they will ask you, 1, not addressed, 2, partially addressed, 3, fully addressed, NA, not applicable. 4 columns are being given, and in title page, they are clearly mentioning what are the points that are to be counted for each thing. So the evaluator will say, accordingly give a ranking, and based on that ranking, that means the client will know the quality of the paper. So in title is sufficiently clear, concise, to facilitate indexing. Then author's names and affiliations are identified. Data preparation is included. Title identifies what was evaluated, including target population. Name of the client, text material on title page are clearly and properly arranged. So likewise, the executive summary, the title after that, your executive summary is also given. Description of the program, evaluation of the questions, brief description of the methodology, summary of the main findings, implications of the findings, recommendations, etc. And table of contents and other sections that the report. So you have a very good nature of introduction, background, methodology, what are to be given, purpose of evaluation, evaluation approach, which we have highlighted, they are being given, and what are the limits, and your comments are also added at the bottom of it. If certain comments are to be given, you can give it. Methodology, results of the chapters, that also will be given here. Summary, conclusions, and recommendations, what are they, and what is your findings, what are your evaluation, that also will be there. And whether they about the references which you are talking. Now, these are all, you have published a paper, you have done some research, you have published a paper. Now, after publishing this paper, we will see, okay, then you will say, your work is over. What is the social impact of this paper? That will be analyzed. So, impact will always be in 3 dimensions. One, with respect to the structure, another with respect to the process, and the third with respect to the behavior. Either it will be planned or unplanned. And the third dimension is, it may be positive or a negative. That means negative opinion is there or positive opinion is there. That means the impacts related to structure are organization, process, individual behavioral patterns that is considered. It can be a planned way, intended and unintended. Outputs can be positive or a negative. So let us see, after you have published your paper, it will be used by some other people, some other researchers. They will cite your references. That's called citation. That means if your paper is published by some other paper and he is quoting it, that's called citation. Then indicator. Indicator means any index which is giving state or level of something. Then citation count. That means how much weight to the, that means if the citation count is very high, plenty of people are quoting your publications, then that your citation analysis is good and your citation article is good and your research impact is good. That means why you are doing it? You have published, your technical evaluation is done. Now your social impact of that paper is being analyzed. That social impact, for that you need certain definition. These are the citation indicator, citation analysis, that is being citation analysis is done. Now, when people are doing it, what is the citation? If you are using only citation index, it is widely read educational information of an article. Citation count never differentiate between positive and negative citations. Some will criticize your paper. Some will give positive responses. It will never differentiate between positive and negative citations. That is one of the important tags. Second thing, whether article cited in a critical fashion, whether it will influence citation count. That means if some people are critically saying something to you and so many criticism are coming positively, its citation count becomes very high. But for citation count only, if an author is quoting his own publications repeatedly, that should always be avoided. That means in that case, self-citations are taken into account. Whether it's relevant or not, the people, what they will do, then they will say, sir, we are putting they will quote all their publications in their subsequent publications. That also will be counted. So self-citations in uncertain relevance always need to be avoided. That's called honesty of a author. But in a citation analysis, that also will be counted. Now, Professor Dermot Diamond, he is the man who he belongs to National Center for Sensor Research at Dublin City University. He is the man who coined the term bibliometrics for the individuals. That means for evaluation of them. Now, what are those bibliometric indexes? For authors and for journals. For what they will do, they will evaluate the academic productivity quantitatively. The academic productivity is counted in terms of an index. For authors, it is different. For journals, it is different. For authors, what are they? That's called H index, M quotient, C index, E index, G index, IN index. Lot of indexes are there, which you will come subsequently. For journals, impact factor, IJAN factor, artificial influence score, schema journal ranking, SJR, source normalized impact per paper. So many impact factors are there. Now, higher the impact factor means high quality of the manuscript. That means if the journal is having very good high impact factor, your published paper, if you are publishing in that one, then your quality is very good. Then whether that journal is indexed, particularly in PubMed, Index, Medicus, or any journal reference database systems, book chapters, editorials, and open pieces generally are not considered. Case reports are not included. Due of which only, that means whenever you submit such things to any journals, they never consider it. They don't consider it. They will say, because it's not going to add to their impact factor. They try to avoid publishing such case reports. Then these indexes will never differentiate the position of the authorship and the quality of the journal. Position of whatever index, whatever the value it's giving, these are lacking into it. Then if you are publishing in a poor journal, they are counted equally in a bibliometric index. They are given at par. With this metric, no distinction is made between groundbreaking research and applied research. Now, why we are doing it? In certain countries, they will say, if you wanted to become an assistant professor, your H index should be less than 5. If you wanted to make an associate professor, your H index should be 5 to 10. And if you want a full professor, it should be 10 to 15. And public, that means they are saying in addition to that, 24 publication, 20% of the publication from rating from 2 to 3. That means they are putting all these conditions. They will be useful. So you analyze yourself, accordingly find out your H index, and then propose to it. Now, what is this H index? We are using all these index. How to say that? It was first coined by George Hirsch. He was the first man who has coined this term in 2005. What it says? It says you, that means if your H index is 9 means top 9 publication received 9 citations at least in each of it. That means whatever may be the additional publications are there, but H index won't count it. And it is a just 45 degrees line. And one side it is number of citations, your publication rank is given, and wherever it touches, that gives you that gray box, H square will give you your H index, and your E square will give you the articles that have excess citations over H articles, and that's not contributing to your H index. Now, how to calculate? You have published one article for which 33 citations are there. You have the second article is published, 2 articles in second year, 2 articles, article second, which has 30, article third, that means 20 citations are there. That means number of articles are there, each having so many citations. That means that is catching over here. That will be called your author's H index. That means if H index is 6 means author has published 6 papers that have received at least 6 citations each. Now, what are these? It's a quantitative impact, quantitative measure of the academic productivity. It's an objective measure of some performance. It is insensitive to low cited papers. It's not counting. Better than other single number criteria like impact factor, total number of documents, total number of citations, citations per paper rate, and lot of criteria is there. But above those criteria, this index is always good, easy to obtain and easy to understand. Now, what are the limitations? Your citations differs with the publications and vary between disciplines even too. That is one of the important way. And it's not time sensitive. That means if an author is having 15 years of experience and if an author is having second year experience, that means authors with a longer spans will always have a higher scores than authors with shorter career span periods. Then highly cited papers are not reflected in H index. It won't consider it. That's very important criteria. That is one of the disadvantages. Easy to obtain, and it may change behavior, because as it is mentioning that number of papers equal to number of citations. That means the scientist himself, he will start putting the self citations in his own paper, even though relevance is there or not, increasing the citations for increasing the H index, which is not advisable. To help these weaknesses, H index is modified, and accordingly the modifications are generally seen over here. Then articles which are less frequently cited are given less weight in the H index. And incrementally, suppose if you want your H index is 2, the efforts to increase from 2 to 3 is always lesser than to increase from 19 to 20. That means higher index levels, they increase. That means that it is very difficult to get from 19 to 20 rather than 2 to 3 H index. Now the improvements to alleviate above drawbacks which are developed is complement of H index based on publication age, based on total number of authors, combination of two indices, based on excess citations, based on total number of publications. Other type of indices are given based on core-tail ratio, based on improving H index to higher values, based on variants of citation process, and miscellaneous indices. So many improvements are there, and each index is having its own criteria, its own way of assessment, and it's very difficult to have completely giving by step-by-step calculation of each index. Here, it was proposed by A index. I am just highlighting certain things. It was proposed in 2006 by Jin, and it was parameterized by Rousseau. Here, the total citations are taken within the H index, and it is divided by the H index. That means it is giving an average of the site indexes during, that means in that one. A index increase, even if H index remains the same. Then R index. R index, why? Because here you are taking summation and average of it. Then somebody pointed it out, but A index is better for the scientists for having a higher H index. That means if your H index is very high, that means your A score is low, and if it is low, then it becomes very high. So to avoid that one, they have taken square root instead of average. That's called R index, which is developed by Leon. Then RM index, it is another case which was developed in 2009 by Panaritos and your Mary Jones. And each criticism of articles, it is the R index and H index, RM index is difference is only the square root or double square root is there here, nothing else. That means the square root of individual citations is taken, and then it will be summation will be taken, and accordingly the square root of D. Then your another R index which is calculated. Here R index is calculated by A index, R index Liang has calculated, but a modified version of this is quoted by another scientist in 2008, and he mentioned that R index, H index, and A index are correlated very strongly, and the relation he has quoted in this way. And this was done by Borman in 2008. Then your M index, which is given, and M index quotient or M index means, that means your H by N, where number of years. That means if you are finding 2019, present year, and if you are publishing from 2012, that means 2009 plus the present year, and the day from which you are publishing it plus 1. That is defined as N, and your H by N will give you your M quotient. That's called your M index. Your M index calculations you can get it here in the way here it is shown. Your M quotient, the criticism, if you see it, it's not weighing timely to remove temporal biases from H index. It does not give credit to frequently cited articles, can vary across disciplines, not provided by most of the databases. That means most of the journals they are not giving. These are some of the difficulties, and it's not correctly deals with the citation distributions which are skewed. It's always skewed. In the same way, Q square index is given. Then contemporary H index is given. Contemporary H index criticism. Your E index, E will be total citations minus H square to the power 5. That means E is calculated. That means where your excess citations which you are saying that's not being counted, E index will take those excess citations. Excess cited, frequently cited articles, and it is a complements the information obtained from H index too. Then G index. G index is, that means it was proposed by Ege. It is considered only H number of citations in the H core articles. But to overcome this one, the G index is provided, and it is giving credit to highly cited rated articles even. It was developed by Leo Ege in 2006. And the methodology to find here is the rank is given, number of citations are given, the rank square is given. Wherever cumulative sum of citations matches with the square of the rank, that is called your G index. Then your G index will come 6 like that. That's what is quoted here, the methodology. Then your G index, even your citations beyond H index also taken into account. It will be summation of E and H indexes. It does not distinguish between old and new articles. Highly susceptible to frequent citations. Certain difficulties are there. To avoid those difficulties, later H square index was developed. Then normalized H index, Sidripoulos has given. HN index was given to him. Then W index was developed by Wu in 2008. HG index was developed by Alonso Group in 2010, which is nothing but H and G to the power square root of it. IN index. This is one of the most important, right, being used. One is H index and another is IN index. Now, here N, why I'm saying the reference frame is given as 10. That's why I10 index. This was created by Google Scholar and used in Google Citations. And this Google Citations is generally, it is used for to gauge the productivity of the scholar. I10 is equal to 32. That means your 32 papers have more than 10 citations each. But if you want for junior authors, you put N is equal to 5, I5 index. And if you want that it should be for a department, you can go for even I100 to even. So low value of N is for junior authors. High value can be taken care for senior authors as well as departments. And minimum at least N must be 10 to evaluate you in the research domain. It's a very simple method to calculate. It does not distinguish between old and new publication. Susceptible to self-citations. That means it will count self-citations. Does not account frequently cited publications. It won't take you. So many indexes are there which are being given. Out of that, you can go for H index, G index, and I10 index. These three are very important. All journals, they will be giving these journals. And it is not necessary that we should learn how to calculate each indexes. There is a software called Publish and Perish. It's a software program which calculate, you just provide the information. It is an H index, G index, and E index, and other bibliometric parameters for a particular author can be determined, and the impact of individual research can be analyzed. But it uses the Google Scholar database. It's free of charge for non-profit use. But here, whatever the Google data is, Scholar database is giving, all those, if you, there one string is given in the Google, and based on that string, generally, you have to search it all the articles, and those articles will be taken, it will be given. Then you have to select those articles which are pertaining to you only. Which are not pertaining to you, you have to evaluate it, remove it, and those articles are to be added manually into the software. That is the only cumbersome procedure in POP software. This is that software which is given here, and this is a reference that is given for evaluation. Now, this is about the author. But what about the quality of a journal? When you have done good research, in which journal you have to publish? That means that journal, high standards for acceptance should be there for the manuscript. That any journal, good journal, they have always very good standards for accepting the journal. It will have very sound editorial board, critical referencing system, promptness in publication, coverage of covered by major abstract and indexing services journal. That means reference database. It should be covered by them. High confidence level of the scientists in the content should always be there. High frequency of citations by other journals. So these are the special criteria which one has to see, and then only whatever the research that he has evaluated, that has to be published in that standard journal. Now, any journal is being analyzed using a impact factor. Impact factor, it is coined since 1992. It generally determines the importance of a journal in relation to other journals in a specified field. It was developed by Eugene Garfield in 1992 in collaboration with Institute for Scientific Information. Now, even a widely cited article by a particular author in a particular journal can inflate the impact of the journal, whether it is controversial, whether it is criticism, positive or negative, both. It will increase the impact of it. Second thing is case reports which are not contributing to the impact factors are not cited frequently. So publishers, they discourage for making such report. And a simple calculation for calculating impact factor in 2019, citations in 2018 plus citations in 2017 divided by total number of publications in 2018 plus 2000 publications by that in 2017. So based on that, impact factor is calculated. An impact factor of 5 is always good. So even more than we are generally saying. So based on that, you have to take into care. Then impact factor should be used when we are comparing journals across. That means when comparing journals across different fields with the impact factor is incorrect. It's not proper. It's not good even. But if it is within the field, then you can do it. And second thing is difficult to compare with individual researchers with the impact factor. It is not to be used. Impact factor for authors will be different. And if it's good, if it is from the same discipline, that means if the journals are pertaining to the same discipline. Journals with other discipline, it is not advisable. But later on, this impact factor is taken. So many factors came into picture. That next is Eigen factor, which was developed by University of Washington and University of California in 2017. The Eigen factor score is there, and it receives, that means it calculates the quality of the journals. It also differs from impact factors in two different ways. One, the citations for more active journals have higher score with more weight than citations. That means it is considering activity of the journal rather than activity of the weight of the citation. That is one of the important things. Impact factor considers 1 year as census period, but your Eigen factor considers 5 years as the census period. Algorithm of Eigen factor is much more robust and subjected to less fluctuations. It has more credibility than impact factor. Second thing, on the internet, if a website is there, which is having a very trafficked website, it has a very high eigenvector than a untrafficked, that means less trafficked website. Then article influence score, that is to be developed. It is derived from Eigen factor score only. AIS is calculated as 0.01 into Eigen factor score divided by X, where X is 5-year journal article count divided by the 5-year article count from all journals. Artificial is always 1. That means if it is less than 1, the journal is, that means if it's greater than 1, if it's above average, less than 1, it's below average. That's what is the influence. It is quoting it. Schemigo journal rank, it was developed in 2010 by University of Extremadura in Spain. Now, difference between these two in Eigen factor and HAR, this is called. That means the Eigen factor is relying on the Institute for Scientific Information. That means it's using Web of Sciences, and the SJR relies on Scopus database. That is the one. And the second thing is, there were certain lacuna were existing, the modified versions were there, and the modified versions were developed and in 2012, and then accordingly, this SJR2 is being used. Then the latest one is Ski-Imago Journal Rank. That is also being used. The calculation procedure is given here. So for all this one, the databases are needed as sources. Which are those databases? That means SJR, this is your SJR, is calculated from Scopus, and your impact factor is calculated from Web of Science. Differences in methodology is also quoted here. That means it is giving weight to citations and based on the prestige of the citing journal. Excessive self-citations are not included in the SJR. SJR is 3-year census period is taken for citation data, and the SJR includes all type of articles, not citable articles even into its denominator. This is the way you can see from any journal. That means the Elsevier publications, they have developed this one and they are using this, you can show on their website. There are a lot of websites are there where you can find out these SJR, then your impact factor, all these things. It is clearly shown here. SJR, H-index for individual authors is shown here for different years and for their papers differently across the globe. Then the last one is source normalized impact per score. This is also one of the criteria which was developed by Hank Med in 2011. And it compares the journals across disciplines, which your IJON score is not doing and your impact factor is not doing. That is one of the important case. And it gives even more weight to your lower citations. And it also counts your Scopus database. So I have quoted here various bibliometric for evaluating journals with their strengths and weaknesses. You can go through it. Lot of publications are there in that one. Now, all these there, you can find it out in this website. You can see this is a website particularly showing the evaluation indexes, bibliometric indexes, particularly for various journals as well as authors too. Now, all these journals are citations. Who are maintaining it? There are certain databases. These databases are nothing but 3 databases are there which are quoting it. One is Scopus, one is Web of Science, and the third one is Google Scholar. Now, all these, in addition to this, another journals are there, website is there, evaluation based on scientific publication, in which Altimetrics, Impact Story, Faculty of 1000, Microsoft Academic Search, PLSO, one article level matrices information, another website, other databases are also existing. Now, all these, in this, the first one is the PubMed, which was launched in 1997. That's only for medicine database, popularly used to use search engines, but articles are confined only to biomedical and life sciences journals, life sciences literatures. These are only included. And it incorporate online ahead of, that means the articles which are supposed to be published ahead, they are also be counted, incorporated, and literature and not literature available on other databases. But citation analysis is poor for public PubMed. The Scopus, which is a very good database, right now people are using, launched by Elsevier in 2004, and it's the largest online bibliometric database, which is being used by across the globe by all people. It depicts journals articles from all major disciplines from 1966 onwards, including the articles of physical sciences that are not included in PubMed. Authors can report even emissions, errors, omissions, and maintain accuracy about their listings to that one. That means if you see, it is categorized in life sciences, physical sciences, social sciences, health sciences, and a number of titles, number of journals that are covered are given in the brackets. And what are the fields that are covered in life sciences? The areas that are covered in physical sciences are quoted here. Ours comes under life sciences, which is agriculture and biological sciences, biochemistry, genetics and plant breeding, molecular biology, immunology, microbiology, neuroscience, pharmacology, like that. So nearly in life sciences 4,300 titles, physical sciences 702,000 journals, social sciences 5,300 journals, health sciences 6,800 journals are being covered in this one database. Scopus at a glance, largest database with peer-reviewed research literature is there. So in all, it has 21,900 titles from more than 500,000 international publishers and on from 105 different countries. 54 million records are there, out of which 23 million patents from 5 patent offices worldwide. Contents are evaluated by a 15% international board of experts, which are being used by the Scopus for evaluation. The references, 33 million database. This is the references which they have considered. 21 million from 1823, 3 million records added per year, every year, 5,500 records added per day. The contents which are as considered, the percentage, that means health sciences contributes 32%, life sciences 15%, social sciences 23%, physical sciences 30%, that is the coverage, and out of that, the publishers, their contribution is given this side. Now, what content? Journals, conferences, books, patents, all these are covered, particularly physical sciences, health sciences, social sciences, and life sciences. How many journals are given? Database is there. Conferences, how many are there? Books, how many ISBN numbers are there? Book series, volumes, and patent kits. That's completely given in the Scopus database. And Scopus author search, you can do it from this website for your completely this one. Then Scopus also gives you the author identification. Whatever indexes, H index, M index, G index, E index, you can calculate directly. That will be shown in the Scopus authors database. Citation views, how every year, based on year, how much citations are there, you can see from their website. Then evaluation of the author evaluation can also be seen. But citation analysis is good than PubMed, but unique advantage of Scopus database is individual author identification or group identification is very easy. Then it is not, authors with similar names are not separated in PubMed, Google Scholar, and Web of Science, but Scopus does excellently. Scopus has added partial indexing of articles published online ahead of the print. That means even if it is kept as a proof for 1 year, that also will be taken into care. It is not free to users, but PubMed and Scopus, PubMed is free domain. Then the third one is Web of Science. Web of Science is a database and it has less database than the Scopus, less articles. That means it has articles from 1900 onwards. Discipline covers are less than Scopus. Robust citation analysis is poor than Scopus here. And Scopus is finding 20% more articles in citation analysis compared to Web of Science. And it is perhaps good if you want beyond 1996. It is not free to users. The Web Science databases, it is less. The coverage of journals in various sciences is quoted here. Google Scholar citations, you can search it out here. Google Scholar. Now, Google Scholar will give you even about your H indexes, all these newest entry into the scientific database community, which is emerging. It is free to users and a robust search capacity, particularly for citation analysis. Best way to access articles published in journals that are yet to be indexed in other databases, include citations from books, online sources, and conference proceedings. And Google Scholar is updated monthly, as opposed to Scopus is weekly and Web of Science and PubMed on daily basis. But Google Scholar is, the disadvantages are there. That means show site. That means if you see it, it will create a profile for a given author and provide list of article, and it calculates H index, I10 index for them. And it can show citations during the past 4 years. But the limitations of this is the indexes, the resources indexes which they are doing it, they are keeping always in ambiguity. And the update schedules of the indexes, they are not mentioning it. They are not showing it. Low performance in citation analysis or author identification. That is one of the important drawback in it. Definitionally, scholar means whether what type of literature, what quality of research is to be included, that it is not. It is taking gray literature, including preprints, conference proceedings, and other materials which are not reviewed also, that is being also taken into account in the Google Scholars. Suppose, now if you wanted to calculate in Google Scholar, you can calculate as it is shown here. It is showing H index. Your H index is given, number of citations are given, and I10 index is given for your material. Google Scholar citations for your literature, your article citations and article downloads. How many downloads are being done year-wise, that also can be shown. Now, this bibliometric comparison can be done. H index is calculated, no, in PubMed. Embase, not. Scopus, it's calculating. Google Scholar, it's calculating. Web of Science, it's calculating. All other ancillary bibliometric indexes, only Google Scholar is calculating. Others are not calculating. Which are free, which are subscription. And the update schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, that is to be seen. And the database system is given, and the number of rank journals indexed is given. That means highest PubMed is given. After that, Scopus, Google Scholar is kept in dark ambiguity. Now, your indexes, publication count, H index, HC index, M index, E index, G index, IN index, who is counting? Scopus is calculating certain indexes, your Google Scholar is giving, and Web of Science is calculating. So, we have already told you that publish or perish software is there to calculate your indexes, but you can calculate online also using the database systems. In addition to that, recently some automated tools are coming, which are called scientific valuations and insights. This is a website of scientific valuation. What is given here? They have, you can visualize the research, you can benchmark your progress, and you can develop collaborative partnerships. They have performance have gone from 220 countries with 4,600 institutions worldwide, a group of institutions. You can have collaboration. You can add yourself, create a profile, and you can add your research, as well as the research performance can be checked, and your progress standards also can be seen. The layers, you can overview it, you can benchmarking and collaboration, create and select research entities, select matrix, and you can do your performance in a cluster manner also. But the difficulty is it uses Scopus data only from 1996 onwards, and its update is on weekly basis. It provides you completely like this. Scientific valuation. Insights is another one where you have to create a profile, and then accordingly you have to move into it. Now, the new gadgets which we are saying is the Altimetrics. It's a new unopened gadgets, which seems great difficulty. And a lot of promise is there, but it is not understood still. It is at the developing stage. The research outputs, data sets, softwares, posters, slides, videos, websites, and articles are covered into it. Impact is measured by number of tweets, where the articles are not taken. Here, the number of tweets as well as bookmarks are also taken. Likes by Facebooks, blog spots, media mentions are also taken into account. These altimetrics track many times the outputs that have been viewed, downloaded, cited, reused, shared, and commented on, that they can be taken. Then it analyzes, Altimetric analyzes other new tools are, you can say Altimetric analyzes articles and data sets. Impact Story analyzes articles, data sets, blog spots, software. Topsy is an index, which is a social web. Slide says presentation, slides, documents, Plum Analytics, and cited in. All these are there. So you can see all these one in Ellipse. You can evaluate it. After going through, now, how many journals are there? Lot of journals are there. You have to see it. You have to select a particular author. You should have high altimetric. That means your personal score impact history is there. Impact of the journal should be very high. To achieve that, what you should do as a good author, what you should do. That means, one, your unique name should be used consistently. Don't change your name repeatedly. Second thing is, your institutional address should always be standardized without any abbreviations. That is the second important thing. Then your keywords should always be given to your manuscript. Fourth one, publish your literature or research in a journal with a high impact factor. Keep your all published records or articles in record so that if Scopus is not considering, you can ask them to include it and increase your citations even too. Then team authored articles, they are getting more citations. So work in team rather than in isolation. Some cautions. That means you have written a good literature, you have done some good research, published in some good paper and with a high impact journal. But even then the citations are not good. That means your H index is low. So don't give bad of it. Indicators does not mean an end to anything, but it is an end itself. That means indicator should be a means to an end, not an end in itself. You can go for combination of indicators, whichever is giving that you can show it. Peer review always is advisable before publishing the journal as a primary judge of science. You should adopt this. Avoid perversions. That means if you are getting a low index, don't get disheartened and don't see that science is not giving due importance, due recognition to me, and don't go in a reverse directions just by seeing your matrix, bibliometric matrices. So, and the second thing is your publication obesity. That means increasing the number of publication only without quality is not always also good. So in all, I have tried to present all the aspects which are to be counted. Thank you for patiently hearing me.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very effective presentation, and I am just looking at the YouTube live session, and yes. I have received so many positive and excellent responses. So congratulations to you.
Thank you, madam.
There are a lot of questions also, sir. So if you allow, may I take them one by one for you?
Okay, no problem, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So the very first question is, how do we reduce the subjectivity of evaluation?
Subjectivity of evaluation.
Evaluation. Yeah.
Okay. The first thing is, the subject is, you have to be very much focused on the point what you are doing it. That I have already given in my slide. Focus on the top objectives, focus on the methodology only, and then derive conclusions specifically in relation to the objectives, instead of going vaguely in a subjective manner and a descriptive manner. You have to focus on the issues which are to be highlighted and which are really needed by the stakeholder of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Another question is, if evaluation needs tailoring for individual circumstances, how do we come up with a standard evaluation tool?
Madam, I had already told you, universal standard evaluation tool never exists. You have to have certain base, use that base, and accordingly develop the evaluation pro forma based on the research, based on the field. That's all. You cannot say a universal pro forma is existing which can do evaluation for all the things. It is next to not possible in a scientific and academic environment.
Completely agree with you, sir. Another question from one of our participants is how to decide or determine, I think that goes for the statistician, but you can always say, how to decide or determine sample size for field survey based resources, based studies.
1 minute. Actually, sample size is in two ways. One is, suppose I am working in a stochastic hydrology. I am working in hydrology. I wanted to determine certain inferences. Now, if I am doing some inferences, there are three methods. How much error do you want? That is one of the criteria. If you are asking, I don't want any errors, high accuracy is needed, then your data size becomes very large. And if you are going for higher possibility of error, your data requirement is low. One. Second thing is, that means if I am saying there is a measure that's called a Rogers measure, which are being used in hydrology, as well as another method that's called a heuristic algorithm to find out the data needed for a particular inferences. But these two formula will give you how much. Suppose if you don't have that much data, sir, I have only, if you are asked minimum 40 years of data is needed, and if you have only 10 years of data, if you wanted to make it that 20 years to 30 years, stochastic generation can be done using their distributions. That is one. Second thing is, okay, you have done some experimentation. When experimentation is being done statistically, then based on that, if you have to see biased sampling, unbiased sampling. That means if the large sampling size is there, it should be greater than, n should be greater than 30. And if it is less than 30, we are saying sample size. So based on that, you have to decide first how much is the adequacy of the record is needed. Based on that, how much sample size is to be needed statistically, whether it is experimental based or whether it is a model based. That you say me, accordingly, there are certain standard procedures are there, which you can say that this will be the sample size. You can decide it. Standard procedures are there in statistics as well as in mathematics for that.
Thank you so much, sir. Another question is, why is there such a fuss on citation counts and publication in Scopus index journals?
Scopus, I had already told you, Scopus is putting a lot of literature into it, but they are not saying, I had already told you, they have indexing that is the latest one that has emerged. It is counting lot of journals, lot of 51 millions or certain value I have given it. It is having a lot of good database. Second thing is, Scopus is latestly being used because of its update as well as lot of database it is having and lot of citation analysis. Ultimately, the citations which are being counted, that is taken into criteria while calculating the impact factor of a journal. Second thing, the citations are being counted towards the individual author index also. For both this one, Scopus is giving lots of database and people are accessing that one, due of which only, whenever you access that database, immediately it will count as a citation. So, lot of citations are coming and author H index also will improve, and based on that, your index impact factor is also improved. That's why everybody wants to get rushed towards Scopus database rather than other Web of Science. And second thing, Scopus, we are using it. And it is freely available also. That is there. But in Web of Science as well as PubMed, they have certain restrictions. But here in Scopus, no restrictions are there. So due of which you get lot of popularity, lot of citations, and that's which is increasing impact as of the journal as well as the author. That's the case.
Thank you, sir. One last question, and that is, nowadays, many journals are forcing to include 2 to 3 references from that journal in an article before accepting it for publications. Your views on the same?
That is clear. See, there are 2 cases. One is they wanted that their journal should only be referred. That is first criteria, because when they are not referring their own journals, they are referring all the journals, whatever the articles that are published in the past backlog archives of their own journal is not quoted, then everybody will say they are not referring that. So due of which they are insisting that their own journal should be given, and based on that only, their popularity and impact factor will be enhanced. Ultimately, it is citations which is counting. And if number of citations are more, if citations are good, then their impact factor of their journal will be increased. That's why they are asking. That is the case.
Hello.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Now this is the time for the plenary session, and for that I request you to kindly take up the chair as the chief guest. And to begin with, first of all, I would request Dr. R.S. Pundi, who is professor and PI for this Nahib CAST project at AAU Anand, for his welcome address. Dr. Pundi, sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Itamra. Actually, sir, I was very much here.
Thank you, sir.
I was slightly only few feet away from you, but I was listening and it was wonderful, Dr. Saab. First of all, sir, though it is plenary and you are with us for the last maybe about 3 hours, and I welcome you again to this plenary session as the chief guest of this plenary session, a very, very important topic we can say in the area.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, sir, and also to my colleague, Dr. Itamra, and also my colleague who is the organizing secretary, Dr. Lad, who is now appearing for some exam of Hindi today. He's not here, but this activity is a part of capacity building program, and he is the organizing secretary. And all the audience also, whosoever have joined and who are with us. Once again, sir, welcome you to this plenary session. Sir, one very important point just I would say is that we have been asked from ICR, particularly under this NHP CAST project, that how to improve the quality of research, maybe their thesis work, and mainly the papers from the thesis or the project reports, if these are the management reports, how to improve their quality, not only technically, but how to get them published in the peers and best quality journals. So maybe in the last 2-3 addresses, our DDG Education and Dr. P.K. Joshi particularly, who was earlier, you might be knowing very well, he was director of IFRI of South Asia regions. They emphatically said that we need such kind of maybe the webinars or seminar, let's say, this is a webinar, wherein the experts who have good experience, who have been involved, not only just theoretically, but the people like you who have been involved in maybe the supervising the students at MSc and PhD level, and who are involved in publications also, who have good records, they should be invited and they should be asked to share their thoughts and how to improve the quality of research, technical writings.
Exactly.
And this was one of the very, very important, and this is our efforts. And maybe next time also we will be having some more programs. And this was in line of this thinking and this issue which I shared with you. And sir, by listening you and other speakers also before you also, we feel that it was very well in line with the objective of NHP CAST. It is almost fulfilled, sir. And so because we know you very well, it's not only that you are a hardcore engineer, and but also you have some other qualities also. Engineering means technical writing. You have published number of papers, and we know you very well. People know you very well, sir. So, sir, thank you very much for that and accepting our invitation. And also now we are looking some towards maybe my principal, Dr. Vaishi Jhala. He had asked us that today he will not be here. He's on leave, but he had asked me to convey his regard towards you. But maybe tomorrow he'll be coming, and some other people are already here, sir. So we start this thing. And Dr. Itambra, so now you please proceed further for these observations, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So dear audience, now I would like to request Dr. Vinay Kumar HM, who is Assistant Professor, Agricultural Extension and Communication Department at AAU, and is also the co-PI of Fisheries and Capacity Building Group for this NAHEP CAST project here, to present the observations from this 2 days webinar. Dr. Vinay, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was indeed to organize this program as a co-PI of this project. Particularly, we had thought to have the technical session on technical sessions with respect to the effective okay. So we had
Vinay, I think unmute. Yeah.
It's okay, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Vinay.
Okay. So in the 2 days, we had a very useful and intensive discussion regarding technical writing skills. In the first session, we were focused more with respect to the basics of scientific writing that was delivered by the Dr. Bharat S. Sontanki as the head of Extension System Division from NAM. And he highlighted more points with respect to that, where we are lacking with respect to the scientific writing, and how the scientific writing is differ with respect to the creative writing, and what are the important factors we have to consider when we are going for the publication. We have the intellectual, we have an idea, we have done a lot of work as a research or maybe the project. If you are not able to communicate to the audience or maybe the readers, they will be going to fail. And what are the challenges in scientific communication? What are the purpose and platform for the communicating research? Or maybe the structure and types of scientific writing. These are the issues he has discussed, and we have received an overwhelming response from the YouTube viewers also. And in the afternoon session, we had an inaugural session. Dr. P.K. Ghosh was the chief guest, and he highlighted with respect to the importance of technical writing, purpose of research, or, originality of the research purpose. And these are the main important points he highlighted in the afternoon inaugural keynote speech. In the second day, we had another technical session. In the morning session, Dr. Mahathir Sirur, he spoke regarding the effective proposal writing skills. So another important factors we have discussed here, when somebody is funding on your project, it is a two-way process, with respect to the win-win situation. Even the society will be benefited and our money will be effectively utilized at the ground level. And what are the factors actually the donor agency will look at, and how we have to write effective proposal, and what are the monitoring and evaluation process we have to highlight. And also he has focused with respect to the prospective and retrospective evaluation, ex post facto evaluation, ex ante evaluation, and formative evaluation, and process and summative evaluations. What are the things we have to focus? And he logically narrated with the hypothetical exams in order to evaluate the outcome and output of the project proposals and all. And he, meanwhile, as he is dealing as a deputy manager at deputy director at Manage, they receive number of proposals from different organizations. So he has highlighted the pitfalls whenever you are proposing the proposals in order to get the financial assistance. In the last session of today's technical session, so Dr. R. Subbaiah sir, he spoke regarding the evaluation of technical writing, and he discussed about how to prepare an evaluation report and what are the points to be focused in a technical report when you publish your research report, how it will be evaluated, and how as an associate editor, and he received the award for his his services as an associate editor, and also he involved in a lot of evaluation process. So what are the key factors as an editor will look at when you are making a publications and all? He highlighted these factors, and he explained very nicely the standard forms and methodology of evaluation in detail. And he also highlighted the importance of evaluation of report and gave some tips of writing the evaluation report that makes an impact on the readers. Around 2,100 registered participants are there from all over India, and we have received overwhelming response in YouTube channel. So around 15K viewers we have been recorded within 2 days. So I think in the last session also the overwhelming response was received. Overall, the whole webinar was very informative and useful for our participant. And the takeaway from here is that when we are discussing with Dr. Bharat and Sontanki, and he focused, and even Mahathir Sirur is also stressed that we can work collaboratively in the capacity building programs as a national institution and ICAR institutions, or maybe the SAO, we have to work collaboratively in order to make the benefit to the stakeholders. So I think our project PA will look in this aspect, and he will guide us to process in the cooperative and collaborative way. This is the observation from last 2 days, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vinay. Now I request our chief guest for this plenary session, Dr. R. Subbaiah sir, for his address. Sir, please.
It's a good experience, sir, to share my views with all the viewers, particularly technical writing, evaluation of the technical writings. Generally, we do for our subject, but as a general view, if you are asking the technical view and how the quality of the research is to be enhanced, it's a very good point. When I joined at my PhD in IIT, my professor told me 3 things. One, Dr. Subbaiah, your PhD thesis will only be accepted when it has some innovation into it. One. Second thing is, somebody has done something, you are the first person to introduce that in the field. That is the second. And the third one is, some already existing methodology is there and how you are improving it. If criteria is coming in all these 3 things, at least even in our PhD here, and the same thing will be applicable even for the journals too, journals as well as the research papers. If you highlight that this is the criticism of that paper and we alleviated those difficulty of that paper and the new methodology is evolved, so people will be ready to accept it. And second thing is, very simple procedures are generally needed to the viewers. Language should be very simple, because complicated language and a lot of mathematical things needs to be avoided. I had shown some mathematical procedures, but softwares are already existing to solve them. So second thing is, the research improvement can be done right now in our routine practices. If you see it, most of the people, they are focusing only on the algorithms, on softwares. They take a software, they feed something into that, and they get in some output, and then they get the result. And after that, if you ask that what's the evaluation of this, it will be very difficult for them to even say. What is the methodology working behind it? They are also not knowing. So without knowing the methodology, using softwares and bringing some inferences will always give a poor quality of research. So I request all the audiences and our faculty too, that focus on the software concerns. There is no doubt it. But in addition to that, the groundbreaking research and the ground observations needs to be accounted. And the student should know how to measure the parameters, whether the parameters we are giving are correct or not, whether the input is correct, whether the measurement is correct, how the measurement errors and modeling errors are being that means avoided. All these concerns should be taken into account. And second thing, he should involve himself morally as well as scientifically into the system, and accordingly work with a hard work as well as an affinity towards the science will always bring a good quality of research and a nice report out of his research findings. And society will definitely get benefit out of that. So these are some of my points which are to be explained particularly. And I came to know about the technical writing and how to make competitive bid proposals, as Dr. Saab is mentioning, that NARM is a very good institute, that they are providing that their expertise particularly for developing competitive bid proposals, then making good technical skills, that is there, even evaluation performance, particularly for the farmers and all those things. So you have brought all these people into one platform for benefiting the students as well as the researchers as well as the young scientists to bring their quality of research nicely. And second thing, to propose them to the evaluators in a perfect manner, even for their enrichment in the society about their name and fame. Thank you very much, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. It's time to deliver the vote of thanks. And I take this opportunity to thank each and everyone who is behind the event. First and foremost, I thank and pay regards to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. R.V. Vyas sir, for showering his blessings upon us and showing us the way. I'm also thankful to Dr. R.C. Agrawal sir, DDG Education and National Director, NAHIP, ICAR, New Delhi, for his unconditional support and blessings. A token of thanks goes to you, Dr. R. Subbaiah sir, Principal and Dean, College of Agri-Engineering and Technology at AAU, for gracing this occasion in the capacity of chief guest and showing many useful insights from his vast experience in the field of research. We are also thankful to our advisors, Dr. Prabhat Kumar, National Coordinator, NAHIP CAST, ICAR, New Delhi, and Dr. Y.C. Jhala, Principal and Dean, IFBMI AAU Anand, for their wonderful inputs, which have helped this project at AAU to strengthen capacity building and research under NAHIP CAST component of the same thing from the World Bank ICR responses. I'm also very thankful to Dr. R.S. Pundi, Professor and PI of this project, for showing extraordinary leadership skills and acting as our guiding force. Thanks to you, sir. A deep sense of appreciation and thankfulness for our esteemed speakers, Dr. Bharat Sontakhi, Dr. Mahantesh Shirur, and Dr. R. Subbaiah sir, for covering all the basics of scientific technical writing, effective proposal writing skills, and evaluation of technical writing in the most effective way as it could be. I am also thankful to Director IT, Dr. Dhaval Kathiria, and his entire team. Dr. Kathiria is also the core co-PI of the IT group in this project. and the timely support from him and his team is highly valuable. Thanks to you, sir. Appreciation and thankfulness to Dr. YLR, who is organizing secretary for this event, and he has organized this very effectively, picked up a very effective theme, which is very timely and is useful to everyone in the field of research all along the faculty and the students. Thanks to his team, which comprises of Dr. M.R. Prajapati, Ms. Vishita Khanna, Dr. Vinay Kumar, Dr. Chetan Dudhagra, Bhavik, Ayushi, others, and especially all the faculty, staff, whosoever is behind this project and making this event a grand success. A bunch of thanks goes to you, our dear audience, for joining us and willing to be with us whenever we request you to join us. Thanks for showing us so much faith in this project. Thank you so much. We'll see you again. And please know that we will be sending you the certificates once we receive the feedback. The feedback link will be sent to you on your respective emails.
Thank you, Mundir sir.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay,
Nice, sir. Thank you, sir.